Yes, hello everyone. Welcome back to another video here on Clare. It's another weekend review. I'm joined once again by my good friend Matthew Hurley, the Gaelic Statsman. We are going to run through another weekend of GA action. We had hurling action, we had LGFA action, and we also had two provincial football semi-finals. Two pairs of them, of course, Ulster and Leinster. Matthew, a busy weekend. We were chatting off air there. Plenty of action to have a look at, particularly today. And now it's time to wrap it all up.
Exactly, yeah, Seamus. Thanks for having me on again. And when this stream is on, I haven't actually watched most of the games because today, like 2 o'clock in particular, like it was crammed into one. Like Donegal Tyrone, only checked the scores, didn't have a chance to look at it. No, Kildare the same. I did obviously watch the Cork game, and yes, as I wasn't at the Cork game, but I just wore the towards because I was supporting the Rebels now today. Didn't end up well. Clare ended up with the win there, but the Limerick Tick game was decent enough. And then yesterday, you had the shock with Antrim beating Wexford. No one expected that. And then seeing Offaly in Westmeath, a few weird incidents happened in that game. I was actually watching it, which was weird enough. I drove at the Cup game, but I actually enjoyed watching that. So, yeah, lots of action to delve into this weekend. And as well as that, Seamus, we know, though, the Sam Maguire and Tailteann Cup teams confirmed for this year too. So, lot to delve into.
Certainly, and a consequential weekend. I mean, I was there in Croke Park today with Dublin's media team. We were there seeing Kildare getting condemned to the Tailteann Cup. I mean, it was definitely a sobering moment for the Lily Whites. Loud obviously saving themselves. Down obviously condemned to Tailteann Cup football as well over the weekend after the defeat to Armagh. So yeah, very consequential weekend, and obviously potentially consequential as well on the hurling side for Cork, losing to Clare 324 to 326 in Porky Queeve. Like an absolute cracker of a game. I haven't got to watch this yet, but I've read up on the reports, I've read up on the stats. It seems like a brilliant game. And for Cork to put up 324 and to not win, how on earth? Like, what more do you have to do? I mean, I think it speaks to how well Clare would have played, but Cork, from all accounts, got off to a great start in this game.
They did, in fairness, and it looked like both sides were definitely up for it. And the commentary during the week was, this is a big game for both sides because whoever lost this is nearly out of the Munster Championship. And we kind of feel deflated as a Cork fans now. We're just thinking, that's it. They are out of the championship, despite a very big comeback towards the end. And the thing was about this, Seamus, like at the end of the first half, we played really, really well. Start of the second half, we get the goal through Patrick Cork and lobby it over Ava Quilligan. Brilliant goal in all circumstances.
I've seen the clips.
Yeah, it's a brilliant goal, no doubt about it. And anybody who didn't watch it again. It's a brilliant goal by Patrick Cork. And then it all came downhill really after the sending off for Sean O'Donoghue. Look, see the replays. It was a red card, and a lot of Cork fans will complain about it. I think it was a red card, and it was just, adrenaline maybe for Sean O'Donoghue. Brilliant block first of all, and then to follow through. It was almost like he didn't need to.
We have a comment in here saying Caroline Dunne was never a red card, also high from Cork. So I mean, like, does split opinions. Like, I'm backing your opinion on it. I haven't got to actually watch it back. But if he threw a box, if he threw a swipe, like, it's pretty stone set. Like, there's no real room for interpretation. Did you throw a punch? If you did, we've had enough of this over the years. Like,
that's the thing. He did throw a Hurley into the Clare guy's stomach, I think it was. So
yeah, right.
Yeah, I think that is a red card, and there was no need to follow through after that from Sean O'Donoghue, and I think he knows that himself as well. And it just changed the game. Like, ultimately, like, Mark Rogers gets that goal, Cork were still ahead at that point, and then when Shane O'Donnell got the goal for Clare, thinking, oh no, this is it. Cork are going to lose it, and then almost instantly David Fitzgerald scores. And to be fair to Clare, they ended poorly last week against Limerick, but this week they did brilliant at anything in the game. They didn't necessarily dominate the game throughout, but by ending it, they did well, and they nearly got paid back at the end. Like, I think there was a foul on Alan Connolly. It was a free in. You think, okay, Patrick Cork is going to tap over, maybe gain a bit of consolation in this. But no, he went for the goal, and it's back of the net, and you're thinking, wow, Cork are back into it here. Rob Downey gets a late goal, and there was a lot of stoppage time as well. But ultimately, it wasn't the beat for Cork. But it's a situation like the performance last week was poor from Cork, and it was the fact that Waterford were just more up for it than us, to be honest with you. But this week, it was almost like what more do you have to do to go on and win the game? Like, I think it was 68% shot accuracy again today. Brilliant stats, no doubt about it, from the Cork team. 3 goals and 24 points, as he said, would win most games in hurling. But to lose it is just so disappointing from a Cork point of view, Seamus. But what this will do for Clare now, facing against Waterford and Tipperary in the next few weeks or so, it will bring them on fourfold. And after the Limerick game now, after the Limerick game, things seem to be rosy for Clare and they seem to be on the up but for Cork, the next 2 games now against Limerick or Tipperary is now do or die.
Yeah, certainly is. Is it Waterford next for Clare?
I'm not entirely sure. There's one game next week at this Waterford Tip. We'll get on to Tip later.
Tip were shocking. We'll get to them. Dude, I don't know what on earth happened there. Caroline says here, sure, he ran into him, plus the game was still on for another minute or 2 with no advantage. So we're going to move off the back of that as well. Yeah, it's definitely do or die for Cork. It's do or die for Pat Ryan as well, it feels like, almost, which is crazy. Like, because when they got knocked out of Munster last season, you played so well against Limerick, and it was Pat Ryan's first year. Like, obviously you mentioned as well, like, that stat is the one I like to use the most when you're trying to illustrate just how good Limerick are. That Cork hit 130 with 76% shot accuracy and still lost. Like, that still wasn't high enough to beat Limerick. So that's how high you have to go. But Cork had a lot of goodwill. I remember last year when they got knocked out, a lot of people saying, even though we're out, there's a lot to be positive about in Cork and everything. This year it feels different. This year it feels like if Cork go out, there won't be as much goodwill around it this time, or am I wrong in that?
I'd say you'd be right about that. And it is a shame, no doubt about it, because Cork journalists and Cork influencers and Cork fans, like I was speaking to Dan Casey on Cork's Red FM last night about the game for the Clare game, and both of us want Pat Ryan to succeed because I think he has brought this team on. I do think he's bringing on the young players as well, like the likes of Alan Connolly again. Like, he threatened for goal a few times in that first half today. Like, Cork could have had 2-3 goals in the first half as well. And there is more of a goal threat under Pat Ryan, and that is progress of this Cork team. The problem is, like, losing these tight games. And the thing is, it isn't hammerings like Waterford last season or Tipperary a few seasons ago, or even this season now against Limerick. Again, we'll get onto that later. It's the fact we're losing these games by these tight margins. The grain of rice, as Paddy O'Shea would say, as Westmeath boss in 2004. Like, we lost by a point to Limerick last year. Lost by last minute point to Dermot Ryan against Clare. Lost by 2 points today, despite being down to 14 men for the majority of the second half. Like, it's such tight margins. 3 points against Waterford, despite the fact that Waterford were up first than us. Like, it's just these tight margins, and at the same time, it's like we're performing well, we're losing these games. It's just one slip of a wrist, one ball that goes wide, things like that. But it's almost like Cork need to start winning now. They need to start winning in the next few weeks. It's Limerick next, which is always going to be a difficult assignment to get going. But maybe a bit of hope for Cork. Like, Limerick have won their first 2 games. Maybe they'll lax off a bit, thinking they're safe enough in Munster in the top 3. Maybe I'm clutching at straws now, but like, it's going to be a difficult 2 weeks for Cork, no doubt about it. And Limerick and Tip, as I said, it's going to be a difficult 2 games. And Pat Ryan, I think he is under pressure, unfortunately. And obviously, I want him to succeed. I wanted to bring in these young players as well, like the likes of Ben Cunningham apparently is injured. Brian Hayes played today. Ethan Tooby did very well at midfield, in fairness to him, coming in instead of Tommy O'Connell. And there was a lot of, it was very bullish of Pat Ryan to, make 6 changes to bring out the likes of Damien Callahan, to bring out the likes of Conor Lehan, to bring in these young players. It nearly paid off. So with a bit more luck in the next few games against Limerick and Tip, maybe that luck will preserve into, more goodwill for the next few weeks for the Cork hurlers.
Certainly, you'd imagine, like, eventually they're going to get the rub of the green, they're going to get the lucky break, because I remember, even I know it's a retro one, but to go back to 2018, that semi-final against Limerick, like, I remember the big moments went in Limerick's favour. The big moments, like, the little, as you said, grain of rice went in their favour that day, and then obviously they went on to win the All-Ireland that year. Cork, if they can get out of Munster, I think Cork are ahead of Galway. I think that they're definitely ahead of Galway now, I would say, at this particular moment in time. So I think if Cork can get out of Munster, I think that they actually would be a threat. And I think that Croke Park would suit them. I think, like, the big open pitch. And I think when you're talking about the Limerick game, look, I'm not saying that they're favourites against Limerick, but what I will say is they're going to bring something different to Limerick, as in Cork have pace. They have like absolute electric pace in their team, like Shane Kingston and players like that Limerick, that Tipperary just don't have. Tipperary don't have that pace. Tipperary are a lot more predictable for the Limerick defence, as we've seen when we're going to dive into this game, because like Limerick, again, holding a team to a very, very low scoreline. Like, even though they didn't play particularly well against Clare, they still held Clare to quite a low scoreline when you look at then that Clare run up 3-26 against Cork the following week. But so that's Cork and Clare down. This game wasn't tight at all. Limerick 227, Tipperary 18 points at the Gaelic grounds. I mean, straight away, it's a case of, were Limerick amazing, or were Tipperary just completely off the pace, or was it both?
It was a bit of both, to be honest with you. Tip were very, very poor this game. Limerick were very good the second half. It was almost like the Limerick of old, and they kind of shut up a few doubters. And before I get more into the game, I pass on my wishes to Peter Casey. Hopefully he gets well soon. That was a horrid injury he got when scoring that goal today. Brilliant taken goal. It was just a freak accident that happened between himself and Ron Maher. Hopefully Peter gets well soon. Like, that is a horrendous injury to get, and hopefully we will see him before the championship does end. But it looked pretty bad. But on Limerick's standpoint, like, it looked really good from their point of view. Like, Kyle Hayes, a wing back, I thought was exceptional. I thought Will O'Donoghue was very good at midfield. 1-8 or 1-7, I think it was for Aaron Gallan. 1-8 at the end. Peter Casey, when he was on the pitch before the injury, was absolutely brilliant. Declan Hanlon at centre back, and Limerick just dominated this game from pillar to post. And it was almost like they were going through the motions in this game. Like, Adam English even coming onto the pitch, 4 shots, 4 points taken. Like, he was absolutely exceptional at that. And Limerick, they're back to their full best now, and the rest of the country, beware, because Limerick had their bad game now the last day against Clare. They're right back in form now. They look really, really good, and I'd be so confident that they will get the 5 in a row, the drive for 5, because this team looks like on the verge of history. As for Tip, though, it's just a weird set of events, isn't it? Their shooting accuracy is very, very poor. The games that they had in the league, especially against Limerick towards the end of the league, Westmeath almost beat them in Semple Stadium. Clare, they were very poor in that league semi-final as well. And now translated to this game, it was almost like they were 15 points to 11 down, I think, when Noel McGrath got that point in the second half, and you're thinking, okay, Tipper make you come back here. Then Aaron Gallant scores that unbelievable goal into the top corner, and then the confidence starts to just drain out of Tip, and it's almost like we're going to lose this. And it was poor enough in the second half at times from Tipperary. It was almost like Limerick were exceptional, no doubt about it, but at times it was a bit too easy. And like Liam Cahill has to fix that on the training pitch in the next few weeks. And to be honest, for next week's game against Waterford, I'd actually be more confident in a Waterford win. Number one, it's on in Walsh Park, which I think is the case. And number two, Tip, after this week, they have to dust themselves down massively, because they have to play.
Davy's going to be riling them up.
And Davy was there.
Turned his back on you to go to Tip.
And Davy was there today, Seamus.
Yeah.
He was in the Gaelic grounds. So he would have looked at that Tip performance, I think. After us beating Cork the week before this, there might be a scope here to go on and beat this Tipperary team. And as well as that, Waterford, they have 2 weeks break. Tip have to go for a 6-day turnaround after getting such a pasting today. So it doesn't look good for Tipperary next week, and indeed for the rest of the Munster Championship.
Well, my thing is that if you look at it in this sense, can you see Tipperary going? I know GA math doesn't always add up, hurling math doesn't always add up, but can you see Tipperary next week going and hitting 324? No. So if Waterford beat Cork, they have a good chance, you would imagine, of beating Tipperary, especially when you consider that Davy Fitz is going to rile them up, because the Waterford players need no motivation to beat Tipperary, especially when Liam Cahill is the manager. And he was the guy who for months said, I'm not going to Tipperary. I'm not. Oh, actually, it's free. I'm gone. And that would have infuriated a lot of people in Waterford on that panel. And I think it's not needed for Davy to rile them up anymore. I think they're going to be ready to go for that game. I think that goes without saying. And for Tipperary, like, the main thing that Luke was pointing out on our preview of the weekend was, Luke was saying he thought it was going to be a bad day for Tip. And he was, one of the main reasons he highlighted was that he hasn't a clue who's going to play centre half back for them. One week it's Robert Byrne, next week it's Owen Connolly, next week it's Ronan Maher moved out, and he was saying
today was Brian O'Mara.
Yeah, but or Brian O'Mara or Brian McGrath, like, but it chops and changes every week. And he says Limerick, on the other hand, you have a fair good idea who's going to be there if everybody's fit.
Yeah, and that was a big reason in Tip losing the game. And they do have electric pace at times, and they do have goal getters. Like, but then the thing is with Tipperary, and I said this last season, and a few Tipperary fans that I have spoken to up in college and things like that have said the same thing to me. If Jake Morris is not on it, Tipper in trouble, and he wasn't on it today. And obviously, Jake Morris he's human. He does have his off days. On next week against Waterford, he could have a stormer of a game. That's the type of player Jake Morris is. He could flick a switch at any time. He just didn't get enough confidence to keep going today, and it shows. Tipperary just didn't have the firepower up front. They scored 9 points from play. That probably tells you all you need to know. And their shot accuracy from play, actually, when you look at it, was 45%.
That's not good enough.
It's not good enough to beat Limerick, and I don't think it's even good enough to beat a Cork, Waterford, or Clare either. So Tipper, I think Tipper are in massive trouble in the next few weeks. I think they lose to Clare anyway. So there's a lot of pressure going to the Waterford game next week, and I don't know how Liam Cahill actually gets these players ready for this sort of game when they got pacing like that today.
Yeah, no, he's definitely facing an uphill battle, and like, because of everything that Tipperary, the atmosphere around the camp has seemed kind of weird all year. When you have obviously the club championship, I think it was Alan Flynn that came out and said the thing about him not picking Killadangan players, and it just, there's been a bit of a weird atmosphere. And then when you combine it with some bad performances and some bad results, all of a sudden things start coming out. People aren't getting along. We've seen this script happen before. Tipperary need a big result. They need a win somewhere. And that's why it could set up that Tipperary could, pull out a big result. They are, after all, playing the All-Ireland champions. To get beaten handy by the All-Ireland champions is not exactly a bad result. I think Clare are the only team that haven't been battered by Limerick at some point along their journey. So Tipperary just joined the queue, back with everybody else. But Limerick certainly looking good and looking like they turned a corner. And the fact that they managed to get through the Clare game last week, when they played as bad as I've ever seen them play, and they still managed to get through with the win. I'm the same as you. I think that nobody can stop them going for that 5 in a row right in this particular moment in time. I don't think anybody can stop them. Now, this result that we're moving on to, I definitely didn't see coming. After the battering that they took off Kilkenny last week, for Antrim to beat Wexford 222-220 in Corrigan Park, it's an absolutely outstanding achievement by Darren Gleeson's side, and this shakes up the Leinster Championship.
It does, definitely. What a win for Antrim, and especially going to the last few minutes when they were a few points down. Lee Chin, what I will say, despite Wexford, having a bad performance, Lee Chin was outstanding. 2-11 in this game. Like, the guy, what more can he do to get this team going? And he's one of the best hurlers in the country for a reason. But Antrim, they looked at and buried them 2 goals at the end through Niall McKenna, who was on my podcast, by the way, shameless plug. And Sean Elliott with that brilliant goal straight for the puck out from Antrim as well. So that was 2 brilliant goals to get them back into it. And the winning point, actually, to make it 221-220 before Cole Cunningham got another free, the point from George Walsh. And you could see the behind clip from Antrim GA on X or Instagram. It is just an outstanding sideline cut. And to win a game like that, what skill really is, and you'd love to see it. And even the scenes from the Antrim vans at the end of it was just something to behold. It's a brilliant sight to see, and especially with Antrim, getting hammered against Kilkenny last week, we wouldn't have seen this coming. And with Wexford performing so well in the league, the confidence seemed to be up there. The likes of Seamus Casey coming in, and to be fair, Keane Burn got 4 points as well. He had another good game, to be fair to him. But just not enough Wexford players actually stepped up. And that was the main reason why they lost the game. And Antrim's come back at the end. It was just, they were dead and buried. They get those 2 goals and the sideline cut from George Walsh, and suddenly they win the game. It's an incredible achievement, and well done to Antrim for that. And still have to play Carlow, still have to play Dublin as well. Who's to say Antrim will not get third in this group? So, it's all to play for in the next few weeks in the Leinster Championship.
But that was it, is that I have to say, when I saw the result coming in, as a dub, as someone that has, is from a county that has consistently drawn Wexford over the last 2 years, and you see Wexford lose to Antrim, it's like, okay, don't really know what to expect going into that game now. And the fact that Dublin, like, we were lucky to get off the hook against Carlow down in Netwatch Cullen Park. We were lucky to get off the hook. We'll come to that game. Like, Fergal Whiteley's goal was very fortuitous, and without that goal, do we get over the line? Like, it's questionable. So that's why this result is massive, because Antrim are showing that the gap is very much closing. Like, when you look at, for example, even Westmeath down the John McDonough, they've lost their first 2 games, and yet they beat Wexford last season. So, like, the gap isn't as massively wide as it is. But then it comes back to this. Why is it always Wexford? Why is it always them that get caught? Like, they got caught by Westmeath with the draw. Then they got caught by Westmeath again last year in defeat. And now they've been beaten by Antrim. It seems like if there's ever a team that you want to catch, Dublin are actually more consistent at getting results out of these games.
I don't know why that actually is. Would you like to expand on that, Seamus? What is it about the Dublin players compared to the Wexford players? Because Wexford, on paper, have the likes of Seamus Casey. I know he wasn't there yesterday, but still a good player. Conor McDonald started yesterday. Keane Byrne, Lee Chin, did Matthew Hanlon over the last few seasons, did D. O'Keefe. On paper, they have much better players than Dublin. So why did Dublin get up for these games against Carlow, the Antrims, the Westmeaths, the Offaly's, more than Wexford do?
I don't know. Like, it's being honest. Like, I feel like nice voice break for me, but being honest, just call a spade. But like, being honest, I think like Wexford. Yeah, you're right. Wexford have a higher ceiling, no question about it. Hence why Wexford have won the Leinster Championship in, I believe it was 2019 that they won it. And why they've beaten Kilkenny and stuff like that. I think Wexford have a higher ceiling that they can get to, but I feel like Dublin, our hurlers, I feel like we know what we are. We know the games that we should win, and we know the games that we're underdogs in. Wexford, I feel like, go into games and they have this attitude of, we're probably going to lose, so let's just go for it. And then they win. And then they have an attitude of, like, that's the reverse going into these type of games where they expect that they're going to win, and then they completely bottle it and they lose. So, like, I don't really know. I feel like Dublin have the other problem where I feel like we very much know our limitations on some level. Like, we go into Kilkenny, like Limerick, for example, in the league this year, fully knowing we're not as good as these guys. And then we don't really ever come close to beating them. Like, the last time Dublin caused a result that genuinely made me be like, wow, I didn't see that coming, was 2019 against Galway in Parnell Park. Since then, our championships have been extremely predictable in who we're going to win against and who we're going to lose against. Like, you always look at Dublin and think Carlow, Antrim, Westmeath, we'll get the results that we need out of those games. We'll probably draw at Wexford, and then we'll get battered by Kilkenny and Galway. And then if we get out in third place, we'll lose to Cork or we'll lose to Tip, and that's that, curtains. That's usually how our season has gone over the last few years. Whereas I feel like Wexford almost get cocky when they're the favourites, but then get bold when they're the underdogs. Whereas I feel like Dublin get a bit tamer when we're the underdogs, and we get a bit more confident in games that we should win. That's just genuinely from someone watching.
And that's the thing as well, because it's a very good point you make about the Munster teams, that Dublin just go into the game thinking, okay, we're going to get battered here. That's the end of our season. But for Wexford, I remember they played against Clare in the quarterfinal, and arguably on that day they should have won that game.
Yeah.
So, like, it's almost like Wexford, they go for every game when it comes to Kilkenny, for Galway. That's why so many people after yesterday's loss to Antrim actually said, you know what, I wouldn't be surprised if they beat Kilkenny later on the year now. Yeah. Especially it's the last game in Leinster.
100%.
Because that's the thing, like, it's not that Kilkenny are, locks off or anything like that. It's because Wexford get up for these sorts of games. And I wouldn't be shocked, Seamus, if Wexford beat Galway next weekend.
Not at all.
I wouldn't be shocked at all, because it's just the type of team Wexford are. They lose again, and I would be shocked if they draw to Carlow.
Yeah,
like, you shouldn't be shocked when it comes to them situations. So, it's a tricky one for Wexford, but it's some problem they have to fix. Because
I think
obviously,
genuinely, when you were talking about the Dublin-Wexford dynamic, sorry to go in on you, I think one thing that kind of sums it up is, like, I feel like Dublin are slightly more consistent. I feel like, say if you're making a team that's like a score out of 10, say if Dublin are like a 6 out of 10 or a 7 out of 10, let's say 6 out of 10, and then Wexford are a 7 out of 10. Wexford don't come 7 out of 10 every week. Sometimes they show up 9 out of 10. Sometimes they show up 4 out of 10. Whereas Dublin show up more or less 6 or 7 every week. I think we're more consistent. And that 6 or 7 out of 10 isn't good enough to beat your Limericks, your Clares, your Corks, your Kilkennys. But it is good enough to beat Carlow, Westmeath, Antrim, and the teams that come up from the John McDonough. And it's good enough to get a draw against Wexford if they're not at their best. Whereas it's not good enough to beat the top teams. Whereas when is the last time Dublin did beat a top team?
I would say actually was it the Galway game where Joe Canning went for goal inside 4 minutes?
Oh yeah, Galway 2022 I think was the last. Sorry, yeah, Galway 2022 was the last one that I was like, oh wow, that's a good result. But that was the weird Galway team. That was the one with Shane O'Neill and everything where they thought they were going to win the All Ireland or something. That'd be grandiose.
They got close to Limerick, I think, in 2020, and they just got cocky in that game.
Yeah,
Dublin.
I remember.
That was a
That was
weird
one where
time.
Joe Canning got the horrific injury, though. I think it was, wasn't it?
Oh, was it midway through that game? I think it was. Yeah.
I think so. Height of COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, but it's interesting, and now going into that situation, just one more word on this game. Where do both sides go from here? Because as you said, like I wouldn't be surprised if Wexford go and pull off a Hail Mary result against somebody. But for Antrim now, like, will they must surely be eyeing up Dublin next as like there's another scalp for us.
I think they're playing Dublin next week. Is it, Seamus? So I'll have a look. I know it's Galway against Wexford and they can't play Kilkenny, so it's either Carlow or Dublin. I'm just figuring out who. But
Dublin, Kilkenny is next in Parnell Park. Antrim are playing Galway in Corrigan Park, and the week after that,
I think is it Sunday, Galway?
I think.
I think I see on the GA Go thing today for Cork and Clare. I think they advertised it'll be Galway Wexford next Saturday. Or am I wrong?
Wait, hang on. I'm scrolling through the Hogan Stand GA fixtures now. Saturday, Wexford Galway is next Saturday the 4th.
Yeah. And then on.
And then Saturday the 11th, Dublin Antrim in Parnell Park.
Okay.
Saturday the 11th of May. The fact it's in Parnell Park is big.
Yeah. It's huge, and we'll give Dublin a lot of confidence.
Definitely helped Antrim beat Wexford.
But it's about, like, for Darren Gleeson, for himself, it's about just getting his players settled down. It's a brilliant win over Wexford, but we have the potential to beat Dublin next week. 100%. Like that's what they'll be thinking. So, like, if they beat Dublin, a lot of doors could open because Carlow are still to come, and Galway. Like Galway, I will say this: Galway are not as good as they were once were. So there is a potential for Antrim to maybe get a scalp against Galway or Dublin and to obviously beat Carlow. So like, there could be a lot of things to happen to Antrim in the next few weeks. As for Wexford, would I say there's pressure going to the Galway game next week? Probably not, because there's not enough expectation to go on and win the game. But the fact they haven't won against Dublin and Antrim, will the fans get Keith Rossiter's back now? Despite
this is what I was saying. I was saying it to Luke. I was saying, like, if there's one, Rossiter's done great, and I've been one singing his praises. But the one thing that I've been saying is to show me that you're different from Dara Egan and from Davy Fitz is cut out that performance that Wexford always have in them where they absolutely drop the ball and completely take their eye off it. And not only have you, but you've literally done exactly what the worst performance was in Wexford season last year. Like, I agree with you. I think it's on players that are senior players in that forward line, like your Rory O'Connor's, Conor McDonald's, to be like, between the two of them, they got 3 points. Like, Lee Chin is hitting 211. He can't keep doing that every week.
Exactly. And there'll be a lot of pressure on that. And as well, Cian Byrne, who's a young player, got 4 points. So that's 215 of the 220. Between them two players, the player that's so influential and a youngster that was only under 20 last year.
Yeah.
So like, it seems to be, like, I think these players need to step up next week now against Galway, but they could easily do it. We've seen Rory O'Connor, we've seen Conor McDonald turn it on just like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do it next week.
Definitely wouldn't write it off.
Yeah.
Definitely wouldn't write it off. Wexford are the type of team that might be able to beat Limerick at this stage, given how inconsistent that they are. They just can't get out of Leinster to do it. Yeah, we're going to move on to this game now. Galway and Kilkenny. So this one finished in a draw. It seems to always be a draw between Galway and Kilkenny, and the group stages are more or less similar. Galway 223, Kilkenny 29 points. Now, the one thing that was obviously something that I would say is I think it's a better result for Kilkenny. You went away to Pearse Stadium, you drew with Galway, you didn't have Owen Murphy, you didn't have Adrian Mullen, and you didn't have Michael Carey.
And Owen Cody.
And you still got out of Pearse Stadium with a draw. Where if I was Shefflin, I wouldn't be happy with this result.
And the fact that Conor Whelan actually had the last hurrah with that last second equaliser, or last minute equaliser, and especially Galway at home as well. Like, all seem to be pointing towards a Galway win here, and it's just disappointing, I think, for Henry Shefflin, just inside, because when you think about it, the only time that Henry Shefflin actually beat Kilkenny as Galway manager, the only time that actually happened, it was more remembered because of a handshake rather than the game.
True.
So like, look, literally, because in my preview during the week with Aaron, I said, like, I looked through the results, and I was surprised to see, that was a win for Galway 2 years ago, because I would most remember that because of the handshake rather than stuff that went on the pitch. So it was almost like,
because I think it was kind of remembered as well that then when it came to the Leinster final, Kilkenny won. Cody won the last act.
And it was just forgotten after that. And I think Shefflin will be absolutely kicking himself over this. This was a major opportunity to beat Kilkenny with the four players, as you mentioned, out, being at home in Pearse Stadium, a stadium that Kilkenny haven't beaten Galway in the championship as of yet. So like, it was a massive opportunity for Galway to get the equalising point. Yes, Gavin Lee had a good performance. Cathal Mannion both in respectively scored 1, 2 and 5 points from play. But as a team, like, I'd be questioning about Galway, like, how they didn't go on and win this game, because it was definitely there for the taking for them. But let's be honest, Seamus, I think, honestly, for this game, I think there was a bit of shadow boxing going on, because I think both these sides know in their heads and know in their hearts they are going to the Leinster final, because Dublin, Wexford, Carlow and Antrim are not good enough to be up at that level. Good result for Antrim, no doubt about it yesterday, but they aren't good enough to be up at Galway's level or certainly Kilkenny's level. So I think this was a dress rehearsal for the Leinster final, Seamus. I don't know what anybody thinks about that, but just my opinion. And yeah, it was a major opportunity for Galway. They kind of threw away.
Yeah, look, I think that I think they definitely knew that they probably will face each other in the Leinster final. Like, do I think that they actively pulled back? No. Obviously, when you go out there on the white lines, you want to win the game. But I think, like, Kilkenny will walk away from that, I think, delighted. I don't think that there'll be anything wrong. I think Shefflin will actually be furious, because that's he put everybody out there. Like, there was nobody really missing from Galway, and they still couldn't get over the line. And as you said, it took a Whelan equaliser. Look, I think Galway have the potential to beat Kilkenny in the Leinster final, like, hence why, you know, they were a second away from doing it last year before Cillian Buckley stepped up and stuck it in the net with the final puck of the game. They are there or thereabouts to beat Kilkenny. But I don't think Shefflin will be too delighted with this result. And it leaves them now having to kind of break that duck in the Leinster final, should they get there. Because obviously, Wexford, now that Wexford have lost to Antrim, they'll be waiting in the long grass for both of them. I think, like, I was going to say there that Kilkenny and Galway must have been laughing when they saw that result. But they probably were like, oh, hell no. Because now we know what comes next. They're going to beat one of us. Or they're going to come out like thunder against one of us because they have to. But yeah, the other game then that happened in Leinster, Dublin saw off Carlow at Netwatch Cullen Park, but it was a very dangerous game. And, like, overriding feeling coming out of this game is Dublin avoided a banana skin here. Fergal Whiteley with a fortuitous goal. That was around the 59th minute, kind of coming towards the end of the third quarter, heading into the final 10 minutes. That seemed to break the Carlow resistance. Carlow led for a long part of this game and really, really looked like they were Dublin's equal. Then Dublin kind of pulled away when it really, really mattered. But definitely Carlow made them sweat for this one.
Yeah, and it was a big one that Dublin overcame, considering the result that did happen earlier. Because I was thinking in my head, after Antrim beat Wexford, I was thinking, could Carlow do it? And I looked at the halftime score below, and I was thinking they could actually do this. Martin Kavanagh seems to be on form and things like that. And did Fergal Whiteley gets that goal, and you're like, yeah, Dublin are going to go on and win it. But they were very, very lucky to come out of Netwatch Cullen Park with a win here. But at the same time, a win's a win for them. Like, they came out with the win. They went down to Carlow. The result was all that matters, not the performance. they got the win. So I think, honestly, Micheál Donoghue would be delighted that he came out with the win afterwards. And Carlo were proud of their efforts for 2 weeks in a row. They pushed Dublin all the way. They pushed Galway to a certain extent as well. They were 4 points down at one stage in that game. So to be fair to Carlo, I think they'll be relatively happy with their 2 performances. And they might be even confident going to the Antrim and Wexford games in the next few weeks as well. So yeah, I think Carlo performed well, but Dublin would be happy just to come out with the win. And before I finished talking about the game, it was brilliant actually to see Kevin MacDonald do an interview with the left wing back, the Carlo kind of social media page, and signing autographs as well at the same time. What a man, So that was brilliant to see as well. And it was just great to see the kids around a Carlo hurler like that, and just show the hurling is big in Carlo too. So that was great to see.
100%, and I think that they definitely would have smelled the potential scalp on the horizon there. And look, they absolutely stood up to Dublin and for long periods of that game. And if the Whiteley goal hadn't have gone in, I think there is an argument that they might have kicked on and won that game. So I think they can hold their heads high going into the next game. You never know. Like, I think I wouldn't rule them out getting a result against Wexford or Antrim at all. No chance. So moving on from that game then to the John McDonagh Cup had its round 2. So the 3 results here: Kerry 26 down to 12 in Austin Stack Park. So Kerry getting another win there. Westmeath losing again, but Offaly winning after losing to Laois in round 1. 223 to Offaly, 120 to Westmeath in O'Connor Park. So a 6-point win for Offaly. Laois 729. Meath 116 in Trim. So no doubt from the 2 rounds in the John McDonagh Cup, Laois have stamped themselves as the team to watch.
Exactly. What a performance from Laois, and Paddy Purcell again was a top form for them. But Meath, I've said this before as well, I think their team going down to the Christie Ring, unfortunately. Like Saoirse Bulfin leaving before even Joe McDonagh started wasn't a good sign. And Laois absolutely pulverised them in this game. Andrew Rowland was brilliant in goal as well. So really good result for Laois, and they'll go into, and Willie Dunphy was excellent the corner forward as well. So very good performance from Laois, and they go on to bigger, better things in the Joe McDonagh, I'd imagine. Offaly Westmeath, I actually watched this game on Clubber, so it showed it to the lads at Clubber. I did stats in the game as well, and this was a weird game because, first of all, Jason Sampson gets a red card after around 25 seconds. I don't think I've ever seen that in a hurling game, and apparently Offaly are going to appeal that, so best of luck for that. But to be honest, looking at one angle of it, I thought it was a red card, to be honest with you, Seamus. And you see an odd point in this game actually from Killian Coyley, who went on and scored 3 points from centre back himself on the right side for Offaly. So he had a good performance, but there was an own point. Killian Doyle actually dropped a free short, and there was a goal chance, and Killian Coyley just flicked it over the bar. So I don't think you've ever seen that. An own point in the game.
Not
in hurling, no way. But good win for Offaly, massive win for them. And Dan Burke getting the late goal as well. And there was 2 penalties inside the first half as well. There was another red card in the first half for Dara Egerton for Westmeath. So this was a mad game, no doubt about it. But Offaly, crucial game for them. They went on and won it. But Westmeath, 2 losses now. Like, they'll be feeling the pressure now going to the next few games and trying to salvage at least a top 2 spot. I don't think it'll be in their reach anymore. Like Offaly, Laois look to be on the trail. But another team on the trail is Kerry, as you mentioned there. 2 wins from 2. Brilliant for the Kingdom there. Morris O'Connor, I think, he scored 1 goal and 23 points in 2 games. So brilliant scoring from him. And brilliant performance for Dan Goggin coming off the bench with 3 points as well for Kerry. So good result for Kerry as well. And you'd have to imagine now it's going to be Kerry, Laois, Offaly. 2 of those will be in the Joe McDonagh final. And the big game, in my opinion, in the next few weeks, I don't know when exactly it is, but it's Offaly against Kerry. That'll be a huge game in the next few weeks.
Yeah, I think it definitely isolates who is probably the next runner to Laois, because Laois have definitely kind of re-announced themselves, I think. Would that be fair to say? As like, they should be up there in the Liam McCarthy, because they've absolutely pulverised me there and pulled off a great victory there in the first round against Offaly to really stamp themselves all over. And players like Paddy Purcell and the Rowland, who've been around the block and then some with Laois, are still leading the charge for Laois. So they're looking as good as they have looked in a long time now. I think they're reminding me a lot of the Eddie Brennan team in this particular moment of time. So I hope that Dublin don't run into them anytime soon. But Christie Ring Cup round 3 as well. So Sligo lost to Tyrone in Markovich Park. Tyrone 217, Sligo 214. London beat Wicklow 220 to 14 points in Ruislip, and Kildare beat Derry 219 to 18 points in Hawkfield. So of course, again, Kildare are the team that everybody's watching to get out of this division, and again making it 2 wins from 2.
and another team to make it a 100% record as well as London. And I think both of them teams will be looking at a Christie Ring final, let's be honest. 3 wins for 3 for both of them. And yeah, they look absolutely unstoppable at the moment. Like for Kildare, Jack Sheridan again with 2-7. Like the guy's a brilliant player at this level in the Joe McDonagh Cup and or the Christie Ring, should I say. Ronan Crowley and Kevin Reid got goals for London as they won the game against Wicklow. Jack Goulding and Owen Shield were really impressive as well for London. So good result for them, and it looks like them two will be in the final. And as for Tyrone's win, it's a massive win for them because like Sligo were definitely on their coattails throughout the game. It was a tight encounter, and Sean O'Grogan got both goals for Tyrone. So big win for them. And A.D. Kelly, I think, got 9 points in and around that. So really good win for Tyrone as well. And it might just ease those relegation worries just a small bit as well. But it looks like London and Kildare will be going to that final in Croke Park.
Yeah, it certainly looks like that in this particular moment in time. Moving on then to the Nicky Rackard round 3. Armagh lost to Roscommon at the Athletic Grounds. Heartbreakingly, Roscommon 21 points, Armagh 20. Donegal battered Monaghan 4-27 to 15 points in Letterkenny. And Mayo bounced back from their defeat to Donegal by beating Louth 3-22 to 17 points in Dowdall's Hill. So Donegal have really announced themselves, obviously beating Mayo in round 1 and then following it up with that absolute demolition of Monaghan.
Yeah, I'd be safe to say Donegal and Mayo might meet each other again in this Nicky Rackard Cup final because Mayo were the favourites going into it. They got another good win against Louth despite losing to Donegal last weekend. They got back up in the horse and fair play to them for that. Cormac Phillips was brilliant in this game. Owen Delaney was as well a corner forward. So good performance for Mayo. As for Donegal, like they absolutely battered Monaghan, as you mentioned. They are 4-27 in a game of hurling. If you score that, like you're going to be up at the winning.
Unless you're playing
winning.
That'll be the day that Limerick 4-28.
Exactly, probably. But yeah, Jory Gilmore was brilliant as well for Donegal. Declan Coulter, Ian McKinney. If they keep those guys fit, like Donegal will have a serious chance in winning this Nicky Rackard Cup. And Monaghan only just come up for the Laurie Mar. Like it was a difficult defeat to take for them. And a last minute win for Roscommon as well. So good win against Armagh despite, I think Alex O'Boyle got 12 points for Armagh. So you got 12 points out of possible. I think 20 points for Armagh. So like that was an incredible tally to get and to lose the game. It's almost like the Lee Shin incident in the Wexford game. But yeah, you'd have to imagine Donegal and Mayo will be in that Nicky Rackard Cup final. I'd imagine anyway, look at the results.
Yeah, no, I would imagine. And Donegal have certainly stamped themselves as the one to watch for me. And then moving on to the Lorimar Cup round 3, Warwickshire lost to Fermanagh. Fermanagh beat them handy 3-27 to 8 points in Birmingham. Cavan beat Lancashire 2-25 to 21 points in Glenabbey. And Longford beat Leitrim 2-22 to 3-9 in Pearse Park.
Yeah, really good wins for all 3 counties there. Like Longford, Cian Darcy hitting 1-8 for them, and Joe Robert as well. So good performances there from Longford 2-9 between them 2 players. So good result for Longford there. For Cavan, Canis Maher back in the team. I think he's born in Kilkenny and moved up to work in Cavan. So like he's obviously a Kilkenny player, former Kilkenny underage player. Like he's obviously going to go up to Cavan and change hurling up there. So and Dylan Mulligan had a good performance in midfield for Cavan as well. And as for Fermanagh, what a result against Warwickshire to go over to Birmingham and get a result like that. That's quite a scoreline, I have to say. And Sean Corrigan and Dana McKeough, like they showed that they have other players other than Luke McCusker, which is huge for any sort of team like Fermanagh. So I'd imagine to put a prediction out there, I think it'll be Fermanagh and Cavan in that Lorimar Cup final. And just while we're on Ulster hurling and things like that, isn't it great to see below, like in the Christie Ring, Nicky Rackard and Lorimar, there'll be 3 out of the 6 that I predicted there Ulster teams. So Ulster hurling and Antrim winning this weekend as well. Ulster hurling on the rise.
It's certainly great news for hurling if that continues to happen, because like the more teams that get good at this game, the better it is for the sport. And I mean, like we're seeing it in the football provincial championships when Meath go downhill, when Kildare go downhill, attendances go downhill as well. That's what happens. Yeah, so we're going to move then from hurling to football. So we have, of course, the men's provincial semi-finals to go through, and then the women's provincial round 2 in Leinster and Munster to go through as well. So starting off up in Ulster, the game that grabbed all the headlines before the weekend began was, of course, Donegal-Tyrone. They played out a scintillating encounter, a really gripping match, 18 points to 16 in favour of Donegal after extra time. Tyrone pushed them all the way This was in Celtic Park, so this was in where Derry would have been picked by many people to be playing in this game against Tyrone, but it was Donegal, and they eventually got over the line in what was a grueling encounter. But for both of these sides, look, for Tyrone, for example, you like the result didn't go your way, but when you actually look at how many new players are in the squad for Tyrone, they did perform well. And, to lose out narrowly like this, it's a tough one to take, but I think that they'll actually learn a lot from this, especially players like Kieran Daly, Ben Cullen. That is their first year in the team. I think that this result will actually do them some good down the road, that they'll learn something from it, they'll gain experience from it. Donegal just shaded it in the end in extra time. The game was there for both sides to win. Donegal ultimately got over the line.
Yeah, massive win for Donegal, especially they were losing, I think, for most of the game, especially in normal time. I obviously didn't watch the game. I was watching Cork Clare. We'll see more of it on the Sunday game later, hopefully, if they do show enough of the game. More on that later. But to be fair, it was a good win for Donegal. And after extra time as well, the bodies would have been tired last week against a brilliant Derry side, obviously. So, yeah, for Donegal to go on and win the game, it wasn't a game where individual performances stood up. Look at scores anyway. Like Oisin Gallen didn't score any from play. Paddy McBrearty scored 1 point from play. Probably the closest for Donegal is probably Niall O'Donnell and Dara Wheel, who got 2 points from play each. Would have been standing up, but Dara Wheel got 2 goals and replied last weekend. So he's in massive good form, and he scored a few goals in the league as well. So maybe a player to watch as the summer goes on. But for Tyrone, look, they'll go into the All-Ireland series now with a bit of confidence. But I'd compare actually Tyrone to what we described about Wexford in the hurling a few minutes ago. Actually, there's against the smaller teams they would struggle, and in any other game they would struggle. But in these sorts of games against Donegal, against other teams like that, they come up to the fruition and they come up with a performance and things like that. Because look at this in the last 2 seasons, they put it up to the Donegal. Brilliant performance today. But last season, when everybody said that it'd be Kerry and Croke Park, they absolutely folded last year. Mm-hmm. So, you don't know about Tyrone really, but they have to move on to the group stages now. Obviously, it's going to be a tough group stages no matter who gets out of that. I think we'll get on to the group stage seedings later on, and the draw will be Tuesday on many multiple channels, I'd imagine. So it'll be interesting to see who Tyrone actually get in the draw this week. But for Donegal, they'll go into the Ulster final against Armagh. And coincidentally as well, it's 2 Division 2 sides in the Ulster final. Who would have thought that at the start of the season?
100%. The fact is Donegal have been outstanding, that they've gone through 2 Division 1 teams to get there. Look, for Tyrone, I think the Cavan game took a lot out of them. The fact that they needed to go to extra time against Cavan last weekend, and it was 10 minutes of absolute pandemonium that dragged them into that extra time. I think that probably did hit the gas tank a bit hard when you look like they were 3 points clear on the 50th minute, and Donegal just reeled them in a little bit. Tyrone obviously got back ahead in the 60th minute through Michael McKernan, but then of course it went to extra time. Brendan McCall with the late equaliser. I just feel like Donegal might have had a little bit more in the tank because they didn't have to go to extra time against Derry, and in the last few minutes it was obvious that Donegal were going to win. Whereas Tyrone obviously had to fight to the death to get by Cavan, and it went to the absolute wire. And the fact that it went to extra time again, I feel like on the gas tank for Tyrone just probably was a little bit too much to ask that they got over the line this time. But I still think they'll be a good candidate to go in to go into the All-Ireland group stages, because as you said, they're always capable of beating a big team, like another big team. There's no question about it. They're always capable of beating a Kerry or beating a Mayo or something like that. So wouldn't write them off having a say in the championship at all. Stockroom Tim here says it was a second yellow, deserved to. He deliberately stepped out into the path of O'Donnell to nail him. So, of course, that's on the second yellow card awarded to the Tyrone player. What did you make of it? Or have you seen it yet?
I think that comment is back to the Cork Clare game, actually, Seamus. The Sean O'Donnell.
Shane O'Donnell.
The Shane O'Donnell, yeah. I think it was, yeah.
Oh, about Sean O'Donoghue. Yeah, I thought I'd missed something there for a second. Got a bit baffled. But so fair play to Donegal. I mean, when you're talking about with Jim McGuinness, to step into the role like he's done and just to resume the success that Donegal kind of had expected, to win Division 2, beat Derry and beat Tyrone, beat 2 Division 1 sides, and go into the Ulster final, where they will be favourites against Armagh, especially like a side that they've beaten in the Division 2 final. So they just need to keep their feet on the ground and finish the job out. Yes, so he says it's about Cork. Sorry, I was replying to the comments. No problem at all. I thought genuinely I'd missed something. I thought like I'd missed something in reading the reports and everything like this. I thought I'd missed the red card. I couldn't believe it for a second. But no, all good. We'll move on then to the other Ulster semi-final. So now that Donegal have booked their place there, they will be joined by Armagh. Armagh got that late winner against Down in Clonus. Jason Duffy, of course, with the late winner. Although, if you have seen Matthew's Instagram post, obviously the fan angle kind of looks like the Down defender was taken out before he went to make the block. Matthew, I'll let you take the lead on that one.
Yeah, it was a Down fan actually posting that. I think he does GA coaching and things like that up and down, and he actually posted it this morning saying that in any other position or any other type of the field, that would be a foul and would be a black card. So there has to be questions asked about it. And there is arguments. A lot of people said to me that number one, that the Down fella was Jersey pulling the Armagh fella as the attack was going on. And number two, I think Kevin Kennedy for the Sports Track Raft actually commented on Twitter that he would have needed a long arm to get that block on Jason Duffy. But like, it's a tough one to call, it really is, because you don't honestly know what's going to happen. Is he going to get, that extra peck of the stick to get the block in Caleb Doherty, or is he not?
This is the other thing as well. He doesn't need to get the block. If he's just that little bit closer, you never know. It might just put Jason Duffy off.
And it would have made him nervous, yeah, definitely. Yeah. So that's the thing, yeah. It was a tough one to call, but obviously, I think John Lowe talks about this in the hurling, that the umpires need to have more communications with the referee and the assistant referees as well on the sideline. Like, that would have been an ideal angle for the assistant referee, I'd imagine. So, like, it was one they did miss. It was a brilliant point by Jason Duffy to get that under them circumstances. Fair play to him. But when you look about that a few more times, you might change your mind looking at it. I didn't honestly spot it watching on GA go last night.
Yeah,
I was doing the stats on it. I didn't spot it at all. But then when I see the clip this morning, I'm like, oh, Down might have a point here. Yeah. And this was a crucial game for Down to stay in the Sam Maguire Cup as well. So, like, they'll be feeling sick about that when they look closer into that clip. So I'm sure the Sunday game analysts will have a discussion about that tonight. But as for the game itself, Down, they came up with a plan.
It was a strange game, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think it was the fact that Down kind of knew in their heads that they were going to beat Armagh going 15-on-15, because they did that last year and got absolutely hammered. Brian O'Neill was having the day of his life. Andrew Borden was as well. And Down, Armagh ended up with 3 or 4 goals last year in the semi-final. But this year, Down were compact. Armagh were getting frustrated. And Down were catching them on counter-attacks, and they got 2 goals off it. And that was, in fairness, Down, like, the only other side between league and championship to score goals past Armagh was Cork before going into this game. So for Down to score 2 goals in this game was massive for them, and it changed the complexion of the game in many aspects. And there was times in the game, especially going to the last 10 minutes, I thought Armagh didn't have the bottle to get a win. And in fairness to them, Aidan Nugent scores the equaliser, and then Jason Duffy gets the winner, and suddenly Armagh are in the Ulster final. And I think a point made by Aaron Kernan or Paddy Andrews or the GA Go analyst team, made good work by them as usual. They actually said that this would give Armagh a lot of confidence, because they go into these games thinking, okay, they'll go to extra time, they'll settle for extra time, then they'll go to penalties, and we all know the story then, Armagh will lose. So, like, the thing is, they got over the line, and I think that would be a massive clutch to get at for Ciara McGeady going to the Ulster final, because they know going down the home stretch, if they have Donegal level going to the last few minutes, they have the confidence now to get Jason Duffy on the ball, to get Rian O'Neill on the ball, and to take a shot on. And what I will say on Rian O'Neill, I think this was his first real game back, starting and things like that, other than the Fermanagh game, of course, and he was exceptional in midfield. And I think they found a role now for him in midfield as well, pushing him back for the full forward position or even centre forward. So, yeah, Armagh found that as well, and they found a bit of confidence going to the last few minutes. So, although they won by a point, and although it was a controversial circumstance with Jason Duffy's winner, I do think Ciara McGeady would be delighted with the win, that they got over the line and they just got the win and got to the Ulster final.
How do you see them heading into that Ulster final? because obviously like McGeaney has been in the role now since 2015 as Armagh boss. He needs silverware. He needs national silverware. Like a Division 3 title isn't going to be a successful reign in terms of the trophy cabinet. They need an Ulster title. They came so close last season, losing out on penalties. This year they're up against a Donegal side that has looked like fantastic. Like the victories over Derry and Tyrone have been really, really impressive. And yeah, what do you make of it? Can Armagh do it?
There's always a chance. And I think that would actually, like, there was always the stigma around Armagh going to the last few minutes and going to extra time and going to penalties, that they do struggle to put teams away. Like, when you think about it, in the quarter-final against Galway, going into the extra time, Jamar Hall gets that late point, and I think Armagh are going to go on and win it. But then Killy McDade scores the equaliser, they go to penalties, lose. Look at the game against Monaghan last year. Reno Neal scores that point. You think the game's over. Conor McManus scores a point. Go to penalties, lose. And the same in the Derry game last year. They had Derry on the ropes at times in the Ulster final. They let Derry hang on, but it tread their life in that game. They go to penalties, lose. Yesterday, there was a difference. They killed down off when it was needed. When they passed the ball around. When you watch the clip back or the game back on GA Go, Seamus, and you look at the clock at the top corner, the bottom of the screen on GA Go, Armagh's plan was to just pass it around, just wait until the time ticks by, and then 73rd out of 74th minute, get Jason Duffy on the ball, shoot, ball over the bar. And Down don't have time to go up the field. They did get time to get a free, but it was a difficult angle for Oisin Savage afterwards. So I do think Donegal are favourites. There's no doubt about it. I do think Kieran McGeaney needs his title. But I think this sort of victory against Down, despite the fact Down were Division 3 team this year, I do think it will give them a lot of confidence in closing out games. So I think there's every chance that Armagh go into the Ulster final and close in the next few weeks and beat Donegal.
Yeah, I think definitely, like, when you're talking about what they need, and they need to win this game, I think if Armagh are desperate to win that silverware, I think they'd be dangerous. McGuinness coming in will want to announce his return with an Ulster Championship. I think that would be sweet for him if he was to do that, to really prove like he is the man and he's back better than ever. Like, I mean, he's pretty much done that already in the Derry game. Little bit of a, like, I think a lot of people were expecting, and like I said this with Luke, I was saying this game against Tyrone, people have it all wrong. It's not going to be a cakewalk by any stretch of the imagination. And it wasn't a cakewalk at all. Like, and they were absolutely scraped to it. I think that will do them some good, that they were in a battle against Tyrone, and now they're into this Ulster final. They'll be ready for a battle against Armagh, because Armagh will fight tooth and nail for that Ulster Championship. Moving on then to the Leinster semi-final. So we'll start with the one that was competitive. Louth against Kildare. This one in Croke Park, he finished Louth 17 points, Kildare 13 points. And with this result, Kildare are condemned to Tailteann Cup football. This was their last chance to take a swing at it and make it to the All-Ireland series. I predicted that they would do it. I thought, like, they'll find a way to save themselves. They'll get up for this game. They're literally 70 minutes away from saving themselves, at least for this year. And Louth just kind of had them figured out towards the last 10 minutes there. Every score that Kildare got, Louth replied with one of their own. Sam Mulroy's free taking was very important. Like, they were just popping up with key scores whenever Kildare seemed to get two in a row. Louth would just respond with one in a row and just stay 3-4 points ahead. Kildare obviously were pushing for the goal right at the end. Then Louth went down. I think it was Tommy Dernan fired over at the point, which kind of ensured it. And that's that. Kildare into the Tailteann Cup.
Yeah, and I suppose if you look at, I obviously did watch the highlights, I just look at scores here. And look at scores from play. Kildare actually got 6 scores from play. Louth got 12. I think that was the big difference. I think Kildare, they relied too much on frees from Shane Farrell, from Paddy Woodgate, from Kevin Feely. I just think they relied on them too much by the looks of the scores anyway.
And I was there in the stadium, man. They missed so many chances. Like, literally, but they always, I felt like watching in the stands anyway, they always played one pass too many. They'd always be pretty much through on goal, and they'd be really nervous to take the shot when they shouldn't take the shot. So they'd always look to lay it off to someone else. And they'd always overplay it. They'd always overcomplicate it. And the amount of times that they had 3-on-1 and they somehow messed it up. And, like, don't get me wrong, it's not a lack of effort. It's not a lack of work rate. When you're there in the stadium, you see the blocks that they're putting in. Like, they are still throwing their bodies on the line, the Kildare lads. I think just it was a lack of good decision making. There was a lack of good game IQ, match IQ. And Louth did make, as you said, like to only kick 6 points from play in 70 minutes in a game that could undo a lot of the damage that has been done this season. I don't know. It's not good enough, really.
It isn't. No, and it probably was a story of Kildare's season. Like, I think they were trying, and to be honest, the one thing that wasn't in this game that was so equivalent to Kildare all throughout the season was a disaster happening by the looks of things.
Yeah.
So it was like Lowe just wanted it more than Kildare, and they got the win in the end. Like Samuel Roy, as mentioned there, was brilliant. Conor Grimes has really stepped up this year to the plate. Tommy Durnan, as you mentioned, again, the last second point, got 2 points for midfield, and a battering ram as well. Craig Lennon, a wing back as well, 2 points. Like, Lowe were really, really good, and they got over the line today. That was all that mattered for them. But look, I questioned during the week if Armagh were to beat down in the Ulster final, would Lowe go into this game letting Kildare off a bit? Because they would know in their heart and souls they'd be in Sam Maguire Cup. So is there really need to get to the Leinster final and get a battering off Dublin? But Lowe clearly wanted it today. They wanted to win that second semi-final in a row, and they wanted to get to the Leinster final. So fair play to Joe Brennan. And what I would say about Joe Brennan, there was a lot of pressure put on him before the league campaign and before the Leinster Championship, and he'll do worse than Mickey Hart. What I will say, he has stayed up in Division 2, unexpectedly occurred to many, and he's got to the Leinster final as well for the second year running for this Lowe team. So he deserves a lot of credit, especially in his first inter-county management job. So fair play to Joe Brennan for that, and fair play to Lowe for going on to win the game. But for Kildare, Seamus, I don't know what's next for them. Tadsman Cup. It's all about how they actually approach this competition, because you look at the teams in it. Yeah, that's the thing. They have to. It's almost like with me last year. They went in thinking we could get young players out of this, the likes of Jack Flynn, the likes of Jack O'Connor, the likes of Conor Gray, and all them. And Meath went on and won the competition. And they got a bit of confidence, and now they're going to the Sam Maguire this year, and deservedly so. Kildare have to come in with the same attitude. Simple as. So, but the thing is, Seamus, I looked at Down's performance last night and throughout the league, and I looked at Kildare's performance, not today now, but other performances all throughout the year. And I'd be confident to say they're the 2 best teams in it. Who would I be more confident in winning it? I'd probably say Down at this present moment of time. So if Kildare were not Westmeath are in it, they're in the Sam Maguire.
Oh yeah, sorry.
So yeah, I'd say them 2 teams will be up there. Fermanagh, if they take it seriously, will be up there as well. Sligo, give their performance against Galway. Coincidentally, if them 4 sides are all top C sides going to the draw on Tuesday. So like, it'd be interesting to see who actually goes and wins the Tadsman Cup. But I'd agree with you with Kildare. They have to win it, or else Glen Ryan, goodbye.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think there's absolutely no more time for messing now. But Louth, they're into the Leinster final, where their reward is to play against Dublin and Croke Park. Dublin absolutely pulverised Offaly, 322 to 11 points. This one's just a hard one to break down, because you don't really know what we can do to analyse it or to look at it. I mean, a Division 3 team came and played the All-Ireland champions in a ground that Dublin have far more experience playing in. Like, let's call a spade a spade. And yeah, Dublin just absolutely pulverised them. I mean, Dublin got an early goal from Conor O'Callaghan, and from that point on, it's over before it even begins. And then like a couple more goals. I think the last one from Colin Basquel as well, just absolutely rifled it in past Lawler, who actually I thought had a decent game and goal for Offaly. Just I don't really know what more you can say about this one. Offaly were just outgunned going into this game. They knew they were outgunned going into this game. And I was speaking to Declan Kelly about it after, the Offaly manager for Balls today, and like I asked him, like, would it be a more difficult result if you had a loss to Laois, or would it be a more difficult result to recover from this one today? Because you did get, like, as in my head, I'm thinking you did get annihilated in this game, but like everybody kind of knew that was gonna happen. So like the players surely mentally would have known it is possible that this could happen. Whereas if they had a loss to Laois, I feel like it would have been harder to bounce back from. And that's the state that we've got to with the Leinster Championship. That like the last time Dublin played Offaly in the Leinster Championship was 2006, and it was a full house. 82,300 people watched Dublin play Offaly in 2006. Today the attendance was 21,000. Jeopardy is not there in the Leinster Championship. It was there, and Aaron put it perfectly in his video. To have interesting sports, you need to have jeopardy. You need to have some debate. You need to have some uncertainty about who's going to win, because that's going to draw the fans. The hope is what's going to draw the fans of your team might win. I don't think any Offaly fan went to that game thinking they were going to beat Dublin.
No, I didn't either. And it was just, even making predictions during the week and previewing the game, all I could think about was it wasn't even a challenge prediction in this game. You know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like I actually looked at
Colin Parkinson says that, doesn't he? Yeah. Colin Parkinson for Leinster just goes Dublin versus the handicap. Like, as in what? Yeah. Like a handicap of +12 or a handicap of +10. Like he gives it that, and he says, can Dublin beat Meath by more than 10 points?
Yeah, that's the stage we've got to know. And the last time actually Offaly beat Dublin in the championship, I looked at this and know the game. It's a very good website to do previews and things like that. Check that out if you haven't already. And according to that, the last time Offaly beat Dublin in the championship was 1982. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
1982. Oh
yeah.
God. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's
isn't it?
Yeah, it's a long time ago. Yeah, exactly. Like it's just, you know, it's almost like I don't go into games and thinking, doing stats and things like that, thinking, what game should I do? Like at the 2:00 games, I was thinking, will I do Galway Kilkenny? Will I do Cork and Clare? Will I do Donegal Tyrone, Low Kildare? There was a lot of competition there. But then at the 4:00 games, the two choices, Offaly, Dublin, Limerick, Tip. Easiest choice I had to make this weekend.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but I think Dublin fans are nearly the same, and you're the same, Aaron's the same as well. It's almost like it's not enjoyable for Dublin fans, no?
It's not like, really, because like I'd listened to my dad talking about the Dublin Meath game in the 90s. I remember my dad saying to me before the Leinster quarterfinal, he was like, Dublin Meath in the 1990s was like box office, and like you had to be there. You had to. Dublin Meath, lock it in for the calendar. You're getting the boys and you're going to Dublin Meath. Like that was the type. That's what it seems like it was, that you had to be there because it was just box office to watch two of the best teams in the country literally throw down. Like pretty much that. Like the games were physical, they were exciting, and they were non-stop drama from start to finish. Like now, like to see 20,000 go to Dublin and Meath last time, it was crazy to watch that in Croke Park. And like the thing is though, is that there is still potential there. If Meath and Kildare could just get their act together and be as good as they were in the early 2000s, like if Meath had beaten Dublin in that game, say Meath had come out like with bad intentions, like, and taken a leaf out of the 1990s book and gone and warmed up in front of Hill 16 and I don't know, beat Dublin and scored a winning goal, and whoever scored it, you know, did that own mulligan celebration where he just stood and looked at the hill or something. I guarantee the next time Dublin played Meath in Croke Park, you would have had upwards of 60,000 gone.
Yeah.
There's potential there, and there is a longing for that rivalry. And my thing is that I remember even going to Dublin Meath when I was like 7 or 8, but I have memories of it. And I remember being in Croke Park and it felt massive. Dublin Meath and Croke Park felt massive, and in 07 it was massive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was. Meath had players back then like Graham Geraghty, Stephen Bray, who like really believed that they could beat Dublin, that they were better than Dublin. I don't think anybody in Leinster thinks that they're better than Dublin, as like what it is that like nobody in Leinster who doesn't play for Dublin has a Leinster Championship medal. That sums it up. There's nobody currently playing for a Leinster county who has beaten Dublin in championship football.
And that's the key stuff.
Yeah, so how are we gonna convince a Division 3 team that they can go to Croke Park and do it? So this game felt like a formality, and it pretty much was. Dublin got the win, and that's that. But like I think we're in good shape, to be honest, going into to wrap this up. James McCarthy started his first game of the championship. He looks solid. Mick Fitzsimons is back in there, looks rock solid again. Stephen Cluxon looked better this time than he did against Meath. The forwards are clicking nicely. Paul Mannion looked good. Con O'Callaghan looked sharp. Colin Basquel looked sharp. Like, I think we're in a really, really good position. Brian Howard got a knock, but he should be back. And Fenton, of course, back in like he never left. Dublin are in a very, very good place. right now, not just on the men's side, but on the women's side. We're going to move over to the LGFA Championships Round 2 Provincial Championships, starting with Leinster. What a battering this was. Laois 5-19. Dublin 5-19. Laois 1 point in O'Moore Park. And then in the other game, Meath beat Kildare by 2-11 to 12 points. So on one hand, you have an absolute demolition that Dublin carried out on Laois. Meath and Kildare are a lot more close, but the results are the same. The last two All-Ireland champions getting the wins.
Yeah, and the two sides are probably clear in Leinster, in all honesty. And to be fair to Kildare, like, they were out their top player, Roisin Byrne. She actually was a late replacement today. And they still only lost to Meath by 5 points. So that deserves a lot of praise, and fair play to Diane O'Hara's team there for putting it up to Meath more than anything. And Meath, Emma Duggan on form, Marion Farrelly on form, you have Neva Goodlogley coming up from wing back and scoring 1-1. So good performance from her as well. So good performance from Meath overall. As for Dublin Laois, this was a massive win for Dublin. It really was. I'm trying to calculate it now. That's 30 something points. Like, that's a massive scoreline, you know. And to be fair, Annabelle Timothy's come into the team and done well in the league. Sinead Goldrick's back is a huge thing, and there's experienced players all throughout the team, but it was the youngsters putting up the display today, because Chloe Darby scored 1-3 and Annabelle Timothy scored 3 goals and 3 points, so a hat-trick. So really good performance from them in particular, and you've Niamh Donald in the back line as well. So I think Dublin are in a very good place. Both like the older guard like Hannah Tyrrell and Carla Rowe and Sinead Goldrick are still contributing, and Jennifer Dunn as well, if she does play this year. And then you have the youngsters as well rising up through the ranks, and they look as good as the senior players. So like Dublin look in a really serious shape going into the next few weeks. And worth noting as well, both of these sides, Dublin and Meath, will play each other twice in the next few weeks. One in a shadow boxing game, and the other in the Leinster final. So should be interesting in the next few weeks.
Yeah, certainly will be. The Munster Championship then also had its round 2. Kerry edged Cork and Brosna 114 to 110, and Tipperary beat Waterford 4-5 to 11 points in Bancha. So important victories there for Tip and for the Kingdom.
Yeah, massive win for Kerry. To be honest, like, Cork really put it up to them, and it's about the confidence that these players can get, and once they do get confident, the performances will start to come, because they pushed Kerry all the way in Brosnan. And fair play to the players, Shane Renane's team, for this. Like Melissa Duggan played very well at cornerback. Lydia McDonough was excellent at full forward for Cork. But ultimately, Louise Verhurtig, what a player she is, 1-4 in this game. You have Daniel O'Leary as well, excellent performance from her. And Kerry looked to be on a serious trot to the Munster title. But Cork will play Tipperary, in the last game, and that is basically a winner takes all. The winner goes into the Munster final, and the loser has to go into the LGFA championship without a provincial title. And Tip definitely deserved it yesterday. And then Rose Kennedy at midfield scored 2 goals and a point. Good performance from her. And to score 4 goals against Waterford, that's some serious going, especially the side of Waterford are at the moment. That they are a decent side themselves. So good result for Tip. And Tip against Cork in the next few weeks. Like, it's going to be a difficult game for Cork, but I'll be confident enough to say that the players are gaining a bit more confidence in their performances as the weeks go on now. And Katie Quirk's back in the team as well, which is a good sight to see. So I do think Cork are improving. It was a bad loss. It was a heartbreaking loss to take yesterday, but they will get stronger as the summer goes on.
Certainly will, no question about it. And for Cork, it's been a somewhat decent turnaround, especially when you consider the league form, to then bounce back and get that win over Waterford and push Kerry close. It's not been a bad turnaround by Shane Renane's side. Now we're going to do a quick little game actually before we wrap it up. Obviously, we've seen those how would I call it, social media trends. We're going to make our perfect Gaelic footballer, if that's something that you're up for before we wrap this show up. Perfect Gaelic footballer. So I'm thinking right now off the top of my head, right foot, left foot, skills, all that stuff. Are we up for it?
Let's go.
Will we say all time, or we'll say of the 21st century? How about that?
Yeah, because both of us were alive at least.
Yeah. 21st century, because then we can't be saying right foot Mikey Sheehy or something like players that we haven't seen play in the flesh. We've only seen the videos. So yeah, I'll throw out a couple. I'll throw them out and then see what we make of it. I'll do a little countdown. We'll say who we have in our minds. Okay, so right foot. Who's your right foot?
I just said someone random. Actually, I'm going to go Bernard Brogan.
Bernard Brogan, interesting. I'm going Conor McManus. Okay. Left foot.
David Clifford.
Kieran MacDonald for me. Kieran MacDonald. Like, honestly, if you're watching this and you're a Gaelic football purist, watch a reel of Kieran MacDonald's best moments. One of the most beautiful Gaelic footballers I've ever seen. Skill set.
Dark Hanneman.
Jim McConnelly for me. Just one of the most beautiful footballers I've ever had the privilege of watching. Physicality.
Noel O'Leary.
Noel O'Leary's a very good shout. That fellow would run through a brick wall. I'm going to say Aidan O'Shea. Fella's a beast. Fella's an absolute tank. You'd be tempted to say someone like Darren O'Neill from Clare. Like, remember the absolute size of that fella? Like,
yeah. Josh Ryan from Limerick.
Josh Ryan, yeah. Josh Ryan's a big fella. Con O'Callaghan, I think, would be a good shout as well for that. Con is an absolute tank.
Michael Murphy,
yeah. Speed.
Darren O'Sullivan.
Very good shout. I was going to say Darren O'Sullivan as well. Now that you've taken him, I'll say Jack McCaffrey. But, like, I remember Darren O'Sullivan for one goal in particular against Dublin in 2011. He just carved straight down the centre of our defence. And then last one, IQ. Brain for the game.
The Gooch.
I agree with you. I was going to say Colin Cooper. If you've taken him, I'll say Trevor Giles. I think Trevor Giles saw the game in 4D. But yeah, that's our perfect footballer right there. Let us know if you think we're absolutely full of it and we don't know what we're talking about. But I think that's a pretty good footballer right there. Both of us have created. Yeah, so that's it. That's it wrapped up. That's been the weekend. We might do the hurler on another episode. But thought we'd throw in a little game there to wrap the episode up. Guys, thanks so much to anybody who's tuned in. Thanks to anyone who has made a comment or anything like that. Really, really appreciate it. I love getting involved in the live discussion with everybody who gets involved. Thank you to Matthew for jumping on. Until the next episode here, guys, on Cluiche. Enjoy the Sunday game and Torah.